Archie Slaymaker, International Box News. I'm joined by Dmitriy Salita. Dmitry, how are you today?
I'm doing great at the airport, getting ready to go to London to officially announce this incredible fight with Jermaine Franklin and Anthony Joshua.
We'll jump straight into it. Obviously, it's probably one of the biggest fights in boxing at the moment. Your man, Jermaine Franklin, versus Anthony Joshua, like you said, press conference on Thursday at the O2 Arena, London. How hard was it negotiating this fight, and what are your first thoughts on this fight?
You know, big fights, lots of details, and you want to make sure that you're fair and that your guy gets the protection and the reward that he deserves. And being that I was in a ring and understand certain issues and certain details from fight night to week of the fight, you want to make sure that Jermaine feels comfortable and is taken care of. So all those details for big fights are important. And in the last fight, when Jermaine fought Dillian Whyte, he showed that he can perform well with a hostile crowd, thousands of miles away from home. And that's really something that you can teach. Quite incredible. Anthony Joshua was a great fighter. I have a lot of respect for. Incredible, one of the greatest heavyweights of the generation. However, he couldn't deal with that kind of pressure, and he was the favorite in the United States when he fought Andy Ruiz. And the crowd wasn't hostile, but one of the things that, it's a day that's forever ingrained in my mind because he was supposed to fight Jarrell Miller. And I remember saying this at the press conference. When Anthony Joshua is going to be in the locker room in New York City, he's going to have a hard time because after the fight, you go see your friends, you go to the local bar or the local lounge or somebody's house, and you hang out, and you have ways of certain things that can bring you peace. But in that situation, when had it been Jarrell, I was saying in the context of Jarrell, that Jarrell would have had a significant crowd there, that it's very challenging. So Jermaine has proved to be a cut above the rest, and he was able to live up and get up for the occasion and perform extremely well. Most felt that he won. The reason why he's getting this opportunity is because, in actuality, even though he was not announced the winner, he practically won the fight. And it's a significant test for Anthony, and I respect Anthony and his team for taking this fight. And Jermaine, life-changing opportunity for him. He's had his ups and downs, and boxing is about trajectory. Anthony Joshua, again, great fighter, won Olympic gold medal, knocked out Charles Martin to win the title, beat Vladimir Klitschko in a classic, one of the all-time classics. And that was his peak. After that, very minute digression versus Brazil, Parker, good, but not great. Just a tad off sharp. And then obviously Andy Ruiz. And after that, there's been a plan to reinvent and find new life and coaches and different things that he has to do for himself, which I understand, and no problem. Jermaine Franklin, on the other hand, won the National Golden Gloves, had a more challenging upbringing through the pros, fought several undefeated fighters. If you look at his box rec, many undefeated fighters, very unusual for guys of that caliber. Fought off TV for his first 17 fights. I saw him in the local gyms in Michigan, in Detroit, saw him at some fights and felt like, my God, how come this guy's not signed? And I met Jermaine, went to see him and his trainer, Jesse, in Saginaw, Michigan. And it took several months, and I told him my plan and told him the vision that I had for him. And I signed him, and his first fight was actually on the Claressa Shields, Christina Hammer on the card in Atlantic City. He fought Rydell Booker. And Rydell Booker did not take that fight on short notice. He was ready. And it was a great opportunity for Jermaine to win, look good, and also learn. And Jermaine has gradually progressed. So if you look at kind of the line, the stock line, so to say, Anthony Joshua has been on a steep uprise and then hit a big low with Andy Ruiz. And then now it's like up and down. Jermaine has been not as fast, but kind of steady growth. And then Dillian Whyte was, if he got a decision, which he should have, would have been a significant peak. And this one is another fight in the progression of that story. So I believe that Jermaine has physically, mentally, has the energy going for him to score the big upset. It's April Fool's Day. I don't know if it is in the UK, but in the United States, April 1st is April Fool's Day. Anthony Joshua is the favorite, but Jermaine is going to play a fool on their batters.
That's brilliant. Obviously, it was a massive fight, and negotiations were ongoing a little longer. Obviously, there was a statement, obviously, regarding the fight wasn't actually signed on the Sunday, and then an independent news outlet, No Smoke Boxing, released an article saying there was 11th hour obstacle. Would you be able to touch on that and why it took so long to obviously get signed?
Well, you want all the details, and the fighters have representatives, and they want to make sure that all the details are, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and I get it. And so then at the end, it was just a matter of physically, it was done, but then it was a matter of physically getting it over. And there were some logistical challenges. Sunday is usually a day that people, do things outside of boxing and work. So at the end, it was just a matter of physically getting the contract and just sending it over. But all is well that ends well, and this ended well, and it's an amazing opportunity for Jermaine for the American heavyweight division. I believe Jermaine, next to Deontay Wilder, at this point, is the most proven American heavyweight, and we haven't had a lot of those lately. Jared Anderson, very talented, still improving, and I believe that having an American heavyweight from the Midwest like Jermaine is would just help resurrect, would be a significant step in resurrecting boxing in the United States. And Jermaine, like he said, for Dillian White fight, was working in a factory to make ends meet, and he got that big opportunity, made a payday. In this fight, he's obviously getting a better payday, but more importantly than a payday is the opportunity to really change his life. And the hunger of Jermaine, I believe, is unmatched to that of Anthony Joshua's, who is incredibly accomplished. But as Marvin Hagler said, it's very hard to wake up at 6 in the morning in silk pajamas to do your warrior.
Obviously,
I don't know if Anthony Joshua has silk pajamas, maybe he doesn't. But I know Jermaine is a long way from there, and he really wants to be there.
Obviously, it was a matter of crossing the I's and dotting the T's. Obviously, with regard to that, I know you may have been asked this before.
Actually, crossing the T's and dotting the I's.
Crossing the T's and dotting the I's.
Then, if we would have crossed the I's and dotted the T's, we would have had a problem. That's when the fights don't happen.
That was definitely my fault. Obviously, we are going over the T's and C's. Would you be able to confirm if there is 100% a rematch clause in this fight at all?
One of the things that I don't do is I don't talk about other people's business publicly, and I usually only when I'm urged, I don't negotiate publicly, and I don't talk about other people's business. So this is Anthony's and Jermaine Franklin's business, and I'm not going to talk about that. With all due respect.
We totally understand. And obviously, you have shown once again in this instance, you are willing to work with all promoters. Why do you believe that is important in the terms of the rise of boxing?
Great question. So important for people to come together and to make it the biggest and the best fights, and for the fighters to fight each other, and for the fans to get excited about the sport again. I love coming to the UK, even though many times I bring the guy that the UK fans may not like. Oh, well, no, they love him, but they might not like him because they love boxing. And I love coming to the UK because the UK boxing fans are so passionate about boxing. It's so incredible. And it's important that we create some of that in the United States, to be quite honest with you. The United States has been known as the mecca of boxing, but I feel like boxing is a mainstream sport in the UK, and it isn't that much in the US. And for it to come back to its heyday, we need to work with each other. Promoters need to work with one another, and we need to make the biggest and the best fights. And last year, we had Claressa fight on Sky with Boxer, Jermaine fight Dillian White on the Zone with Eddie, and Vladimir Shishkin fight on PBC with Al Heyman on Showtime. So I'm very grateful and proud of the fact that I'm able to work with everyone and have a good working relationship with all of them. So, and I feel that the sport has to be inclusive, not exclusive. Exclusive is not good. Exclusive is not good. It sounds good, but it's really not good. It's not good for the fans. It's not good for the fighters. So I think that I know that for the sport to survive and be strong, HBO was so successful because it was inclusive. It had its favorite promoters because of the amount of talent that they had, like Bob Arum and Golden Boy and Don King, but they worked for other people. And for that reason, you got the biggest and the best fights. And the best stories were told. And the sport grew. And Canelo really is still living off of that HBO era. His brand is still living off of those HBO stories and storytelling that HBO only knew how to do, really. A lot of incredibly talented people, but able to, in the sport of boxing, but to be able to bring them all together and manifest such a product is a talent in itself. And for some reason, boxing on HBO was able to do it. So, and now we're hearing about Showtime possibly having another company come in. So hopefully it survives, because Showtime has been a lifeline for boxing in the United States. Has done a tremendous job, and very grateful for that. So yeah, everybody needs to work with everybody, and egos and conflicts would be great if they add, because people like drama. So in the boxing business, this promoter can beef with that promoter, and it could be fun, but it should never be to a point where you're not going to do business together, because that hurts the business, and it's like not good. It could be fun and entertaining for someone to say something about this guy and that guy and this guy and that guy, but at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, in my opinion, that should not stand in the way of making fights.
That's definitely, obviously, when all promoters do work together, it does bring the sport together, and the best fights do happen. I know we did briefly touch on there, Savannah Marshall, Claressa Shields, Savannah Marshall, whatever you want to look at it. We'll just jump straight into that. What is next for Claressa Shields? Obviously, there was a report that Savannah Marshall had reactivated the rematch clause. Have you heard any more on that at all?
I've heard some about it, and again, it's too sensitive to really talk completely open about it. Claressa would welcome a rematch. We're in. We want to do the rematch. Although, from this side, to me, 10 out of 10 times Claressa beats Savannah. It's a great fight, and it was a great fight. And Savannah is a very good fighter, and she's amazing. And I have respect for her camp and for Savannah inside and outside the ring. But Claressa is a fighter on a different level. She is the Muhammad Ali of this generation. 10 out of 10 times, Claressa beats Savannah. And it'll probably always be an entertaining fight. I think Claressa stops Savannah next time out, to be quite honest with you. But to me, as a viewer, I'm going to take my promoter hat off and step outside of it. So what changed? What changed from October to April? What changed? Nothing changed. So it will be great. It will be better, like in a Katie Taylor and Serrano, if there's a story and something happens in between, for both of them to kind of progress their brand and live off of that incredible fight. However, we are okay with fighting Savannah Marshall again, and we welcome it. And it's something that we're actively exploring.
Do you think that fight happens next?
I think it's very likely that it could happen next.
Obviously, there are other fights out there for Claressa Shields. The world is our oyster in the sense.
I mean, Claressa and Natasha Jonas, who's expressed interest in fighting Claressa, is a big fight, and it's pretty incredible that Natasha and her trainer Joe Gallagher, who's a great trainer, Hall of Famer, trained so many champions, believes in Natasha so much that he's publicly challenging Claressa. And we've had discussions with him, and Joe was on board. He wants the fight to happen. So I believe that especially for the UK, that's a fight that's very interesting. And I believe Claressa is the GWOAT, but it will be very interesting. And I think that there's a lot of people that would root for Natasha. So that's another great one, either now or later.
Natasha Jonas is rumored to return on March 25th. Obviously, is that a date that Claressa Shields could be ready for?
I mean, we have to discuss it. Yeah, I think she could be ready for March 25th. She's always stays in the gym and stays ready. Certainly for a fight like that, today's February 7th, and this is a short month. For a fight like that, you want to build up and you want both the fighters to get the most out of it. So while Claressa would be ready physically, I believe that for branding purposes of both fighters and the fight itself, it needs more time to marinate and to really to come to its fullest capacity as it could be, as was versus Savannah and Claressa.
That's totally understandable. We'll just move on to another one of your fighters, Otto Warling. Obviously, he did have a fight a few weeks ago. He did get a cut in his last fight, and he is now targeting the April May return. Could you just confirm that at all?
Yeah, so Otto, one of the most avoided heavyweights in the division, and really loves the sport of boxing because most guys would say, Dmitry, I'm gonna sit on the sidelines, enjoy life, and get me the big fight. But Otto wants to stay busy. He wants to perfect his craft. He wants to keep getting better. And we've had over the last 11 months had 3 active stay busy fights for Otto just to keep him active and explore big opportunities for him. We did have some discussions with finding Anthony Joshua, some serious discussions, but it went in a different direction. And I believe really the best fight for Otto and for Dillian Whyte is each other. They were supposed to fight a year and a half ago, and Dillian pulled out with an injury when Otto had his bags ready. Let me show you, like, just see, like, I have my bag, just so that people can picture it. I'm in the airport, right? So Otto had this packed, ready to go to London, and he got a call saying Dillian Whyte is injured. So can you imagine how he felt? Spending so much effort in training camp and sparring and dieting and not hanging out and doing all the things that fighters do. It's like a life. And then getting a call as he's on his way, as the Uber is coming, he's saying Dillian Whyte is injured. So obviously, you know, he had to question it. And then Dillian fought Tyson Fury, and what happened. Both of them want to fight, want to have big fights. Both of them want to fight Jermaine Franklin because Jermaine is going to win, has a great chance to win April 1st. But both of them want something significant. And I believe that for each other, they need each other. Otto wants to have a rematch with Tyson Fury. More than Joshua, he wants to have a rematch with Tyson Fury because he feels he's gotten better and he has the magic to give him a lot of trouble, as he had in their first fight.
Has there been any further discussions with regarding the Dillian Whyte fight at all?
I've made some inquiries and just let them know that we're interested in the fight, but I have not heard back from the camp as of yet.
No worries at all. Obviously, he is a massive player in the heavyweight division, and that fight with Dillian Whyte will be absolutely huge, obviously, when that does take place. Obviously, there is talks, obviously, if Joshua is to get through Franklin on April 1st, them two would be able to fight each other, but your man is there to obviously put a stop to that. Another fight we're gonna briefly touch on, we did touch on him earlier, is Vladimir Shinshkin, number 7 ranked in super middleweight on BoxRec, number 2 in the IBF. What is next?
Well, depending on what Canelo does, he would fight against the number 1 guy for the IBF title if Canelo moves up to 175 or maybe for the interim title, because Canelo is going to move up and fight Bivol because he's been holding on to those titles for such a long time. Similar what the IBF is doing in the heavyweight division. That's the hope. But all it is hope at this point because we don't know what Canelo is going to do. Truly, I believe the best fight for Canelo is Vladimir Shishkin today. If he wants to fight Bivol, the best style to mimic is Vladimir Shishkin. Trained by Sugar Hill, had a successful win at Showtime. I believe that fight makes a lot of sense. And I've reached out to Canelo's people and waiting to hear back, but I think it's a great fight. Obviously, and I believe that Shishkin is known by the hardcore boxing fans and respected. And the fact that he's not known actually will add to the fight. Because from all the people that are known, only Bivol in the supermiddleweight division, light heavyweight division, will be a real threat to Canelo. But this guy's unknown to the greater public. The boxing people know who he is and how good he is. And Canelo's obviously coming off a loss. So I believe there's a lot of interest. He's a Russian, like people living in the United States. He's a Kronk Russian, Kronk Jim Russian. Yeah, we'd love to make it happen.
That is massive. And obviously, just one more question. Obviously, who would we look to be able to keep an eye out in your stable? Who isn't really well known, but who is catching your eye at the moment?
So I think people know about Georgia Kondragashev, who's the number 3 junior welterweight. So I won't say too much about him. He is one of the hardest punchers in boxing. One of the guys that I'm very excited about, that I believe is the best light heavyweight in the world, is Ali Ismailov. He's only 9-0. He's rated in the top 20 on BoxRec and top 10 in IBF. He won the USBA title in his last fight, beating world-rated Eric Marguia. And he is a blue chipper. One of the people that I believe in a year from now will beat Bivol and all the other top light heavyweights.
Perfect. And obviously, this is a question we do ask the most people we do have on our channel, Dmitry. What does boxing mean to you?
Oh, boxing means everything to me. I mean, I've been boxing since I'm 13 years old and love the sport of boxing through and through, and love participating in these big fights, in all the fights. I actually love seeing someone start off as a early in their career and progress to eliteness. And with Jermaine, not quite that. I've been involved with him for 3 years, but having done many fights with him and now seeing him fight in the super fight is really incredible. Jarrell Miller, I started working with Jarrell since his second professional fight, and I knew him. He's actually the first fighter I signed. So when the fight with Anthony Joshua was announced and thought it was going to happen, it was really meaningful to me. But boxing is, they have these t-shirts, boxing is life. Maybe that's too much, but boxing is a sport that I love. I love what it represents. I love the fact that a guy like Jermaine Franklin, which just did a video that he was working in a factory overnight, literally, can change his life, can become famous, can become wealthy, can become influential, and it doesn't happen overnight. The fight happens overnight, but it's years of work, years of dedication, years of sacrifice that where you're able to perform on that given night. Like Buster Douglas didn't get lucky. He also got lucky, but he didn't just get lucky when he beat Mike Tyson. It's years of work and years of dedication, and it's a combination. And the beautiful thing is that you see it on a certain night. So hopefully we're going to see it all come together April 1st. I really believe it.
Perfect. That was my last question, Dmitry. Thank you for talking international boxing news today, and have a safe flight to London.
Thank you. I look forward to London.
Take care.